Today, we're going to be interviewing several different people and asking a controversial question based on recent UNCG happenings.
Why do you believe most rape victims do not press charges?
Most of the time, I feel like it's a fear.
Fear of what?
A fear of like the person that did it to them, because a lot of times the person will be like, oh, you know, if you tell on me, I'll kill you, or they usually hold things over the person's head, so it's almost like a manipulation. So I feel like that plays a big part in why they do it.
I think that most rapes go unreported because women are embarrassed about it and they don't want to tell anybody, and that the process of like going through a trial and all that is really intimidating. I'd rather just not even deal with it.
I feel like rape victims, they go unreported because females would usually be ashamed, or they'd be embarrassed to talk about their experience about getting raped.
Like, there's like a stereotype for women that like if they were to report it, they would get the blame. Like if you ever heard of like rape culture, women get the blame even though they were the ones to get raped, and the men don't get like jail time. I know if you've heard of that in like the news. That's what happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
The reason why most rapes go unreported is mainly because the whole victim shaming thing, quite honestly, and it's very actively pursued and perpetuated throughout not only some of the resources that are available to actually handle situations like that, the fact that men who claim rape are considered not victims and should be proud of it, or somehow, I don't know, happy in a sense. And that women who report rape are then now essentially dismissing themselves as being helpless, and they, yet again, are perpetuating into the victim stigma. And that's why it gets unreported. It's because no one wants to be victimless. No one wants to have a lack of power. And unfortunately, that's what we're kind of geared towards, is that we have to have power and have to have control. And unfortunately, rape doesn't allow for that.
I really have no idea why. Personally, rape goes both ways, and if I was raped, I would report it just to get that person the criminal justice that they needed.
I personally do not know why you would never report a case of rape, because I would feel a lot more comfortable and a lot safer if I did report the case. I feel like most rape cases happen in fraternity houses, and maybe they just don't want to ruin their Greek life. But if you ever are a victim of rape, please report it.
Go.
I feel like most rape cases go unreported or undetected because most people, girls specifically, are rather embarrassed or ashamed of what other people might think of them if they were raped. And it's all about image, and they don't want people to know that they put themselves in a bad situation, or they were intoxicated and it happened, so they usually just keep it to themselves just for their personal reputation.
I feel like most people don't press charges for rape because they don't want to have to go through the process of being on the stand in court and having to describe every little detail. And like, it's a lot for one person to go through, and it's a lot of personal trauma, and it's a lot of stress on an individual to have to let the whole world know their story.
Yeah.
You believe it's because they want to save their pride, or they want to protect the perpetrator's label?
Go.
I believe that they don't want the perpetrator to have the label because they could mess up their life socially and emotionally, so they could come back for them later on.
Go.
I feel like it's more of an attempt to save their pride because there have been 4 cases of rape that have occurred on campus just this semester, and there was one just last week and it went unreported, and the female did not report the victim's name, nor did she release her own name. So I feel like that was more of her keeping to herself and keeping closure so people don't know who she is, and that she doesn't get a reputation of being labeled as somebody that was raped.
Rape is a very controversial subject, and as you can see by our interviews and analysis, it is a very touching subject to many people, and victims would rather have their pride instead of having their perpetrator serve the consequences that they should undergo. And I believe that that is a correct accusation.